Are OMEN gaming PCs worth it in 2026? If you're planning on buying one of their pre-built systems, then you're in the right place. I'm gonna do a full-on colonoscopy on their PC, from the unboxing experience to the setup, price check with today's market, all through the benchmarking, thermals, and final verdict. All in the effort to give you the information you need to pull the trigger on their PCs or to save up and buy something else. Welcome to episode 3 of Is It Still Good? Full disclosure, OMEN did send out the PC and sponsor this video, but they have no control over what I say, nor will I be reviewing the unit that they sent me. Instead, I'll be taking a look at the system that I bought myself under a different name and address. And I do this to make sure that the company doesn't send me a cherry-picked PC. So with that said, let's get started. So the package arrived in this massive box with 4 lock-in clips on the bottom, 2 on each side. And this is honestly my favorite type of packaging because it provides an easy and smooth unboxing experience. I just had to remove the clips and lift open the top. A quick start guide was included along with 2 smaller boxes on the side. One of them had a budget membrane keyboard and the other had a small laser mouse with the power cable. I then proceeded to remove the plastic bag from the PC, and that was pretty much it. There was no additional packing inside the case because the GPU came with a pre-installed mount for safety. I did a quick visual inspection and didn't find any damages to any part of the PC. I think OMEN packaged this very well, so for that, I'm gonna give the unboxing experience a 5 out of 5. Setting up the PC was super easy as well. After plugging the power cable into the PC, along with the monitor, keyboard, and mouse, I fired it up. The Windows setup process took about 7 minutes, and then I was taken straight to the desktop, and after updating the NVIDIA graphics driver, I was ready to use the PC. I didn't run into any issues at all. However, there was a setting that was not enabled in the BIOS, and as a result, the memory was running at a much lower frequency. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get into the BIOS by restarting the PC because that option is not available. It kept bypassing the BIOS screen and taking me straight to the desktop instead. Now, I did email the OMEN support team and they told me that this wasn't normal and that I should be able to access the BIOS. So we went through hours of troubleshooting and they did their best to find a solution. However, they have determined that the system needs to be sent back for further diagnostics. Luckily, there was another way to obtain the faster memory speeds. I was able to overclock the memory using the OMEN Gaming Hub software. I just clicked on the OMEN desktop option on the bottom, navigated to the advanced performance tuning, then clicked on memory. And here I was presented the option to overclock to 5200 megatransfers by simply clicking on that option. If the memory is not running at its max frequency, then you're losing out on performance. And if you're spending over $4,000 on a pre-built system, then it's the builder's responsibility to make sure XMP is enabled before they ship you out the PC, or at least give you some instructions on how to enable it yourself. It's kind of like buying a 240 Hz monitor, but leaving it at only 60 Hz refresh rate. You're paying for that extra performance and you're not even using it. For that reason, I'm giving them a 3 out of 5 for setup. Now let's talk about value. How much would a similar spec PC cost you if you were to build it yourself? Well, for starters, this is the OMEN MAX 45L, and it's a fully customizable PC that you can max out to any spec you want, from the CPU, GPU, and even the memory and storage. I opted for a Ryzen 9 9950X 3D processor, an RTX 5080 graphics card, 128 gigs of DDR5 memory, because why not? And a 2TB M.2 SSD. However, you can customize it how you like to fit your own budget. The configurator is actually very flexible. So the current retail price as of today on their website was $6,399. Yep, I don't have to put together a list to tell you guys that is extremely overpriced, but here's where things get interesting, okay? While I was placing my order for the PC, I decided to chat with the representative because I wanted to find out what the return policy was. And during that conversation, she offered a discount if I bought the PC the same day. So I sent a screenshot of the configuration I wanted and she came back with an insane offer. Okay, check this out. She was able to drop the price all the way down to $4,410.69. That's a 30% discount, all because I initiated a chat with one of the representatives. But there was a catch. The only condition was that I had to buy their HyperX Clutch Gladiate controller, which was only $40. Such a small price to pay to get nearly $1,900 knocked off the total. So naturally, I agreed and I placed the order. Now, full disclosure and for legal reasons, I don't want any lawyers knocking on my doorstep after making this statement, but I want to make sure that you guys know that this is not guaranteed for anyone. I don't know why on earth I was offered this discount at the time of purchase, so I don't want people watching this video to think that this happens every time. I mean, I used a different name, a different email address, even a different shipping address, so there's no way they would have known it was me putting in the order. But for the sake of the video, I will compare the full retail price on the website versus the price that I actually paid, which was $4,450.68. Okay, at the time of making this video, it would have cost roughly $4,830 to build a PC with these specs. So actually it would be cheaper going with OMEN instead of building it yourself. Now, obviously this isn't a one-to-one comparison because there are some parts of the build that can't be replicated, like the case. This is a one-of-a-kind, custom designed and manufactured by OMEN. But for the same performance, I mean, it's actually cheaper to go with OMEN. Now, if you compare it to the retail price on the website without any discounts, then that's where it becomes extremely overpriced in my opinion. You're basically paying $1,470.99 more to get this PC. That's like another really good mid-tier AM5 gaming PC. I mean, sure, you get a custom case with a patented cryo chamber where the radiator is separated into different compartments to improve overall temps, or maybe the fact that you get easy toolless access to the insides, or perhaps it's the OMEN Gaming Hub software that gives you the ability to overclock and improve your system's performance with a touch of a button. However way you want to look at it, I just don't think the price is justified. So if we take the discounted price into consideration, it is a solid 5 out of 5 for value. But with the original MSRP, it is a 1 out of 5. Moving on to connectivity, the OMEN MAX 45L doesn't do too bad. We have 6 USB 3 ports coupled with dual USB Type-C. We have a gigabit Ethernet and a dedicated clear CMOS, which is nice. Despite not having Wi-Fi extender on the exterior, the PC actually does come with built-in Wi-Fi. In the front, we also have dual USB 3 and 1 Type-C, so overall connectivity, I'm gonna give the OMEN MAX a 4 out of 5. This brings us to aesthetics, and this is always gonna be subjective because a PC could look amazing for one person and atrocious for another. So I'm gonna look at this from a custom PC builder perspective because if you're gonna drop over $4,000 for a system, it's gotta look the part. So for starters, we have a very interesting case design. It's a full tower that's split into 2 chambers. We have the motherboard with the GPU in the main chamber and the radiator with 3 fans in a separate chamber above. OMEN is calling it their cryo chamber, and its main purpose is to provide separate cooling for the CPU. It's quite genius if you ask me, but we'll talk more about that in the thermal segment of the video. I didn't find the branding too obnoxious. There is a few vinyl branding letters scattered across each panel with an AMD Ryzen 9 sticker in the front, which can all be removed by applying a heat gun directly on it for a few seconds. I do like the subtle brushed aluminum look and feel for the front panel. I think it adds a nice separation between the rest of the case. And in terms of fans, we do have 4 RGB fans, which is nice, but only stock power supply cables, which apparently is the norm for pre-built systems. The cable management also isn't the greatest. I mean, they did a pretty decent job bundling the cables together so they don't flare out, but the rear of the case looks a bit messy. I would have preferred to see straighter cable runs, but this is the backside of the case after all, so I guess it's not really that important. What's important is having easy access to the cables in case you need to change things out. So for overall cable management, I'm gonna give them a 4 out of 5. In terms of customization, you can change the effects and lighting from the fans, the memory, and also the AIO screen using the OMEN Gaming Hub software, which I thought was pretty cool. So overall for aesthetics, I'm gonna give the PC a 4 out of 5 without factoring in the stock power supply cables. Okay, now let's talk about performance. And as you guys can see, I do have a full OMEN setup with their OLED monitor and peripherals. If you're gonna buy a high-end gaming PC, you're gonna need the gear to keep up with it. I'm gonna be using the HyperX OMEN 27Q, which is a 27-inch 240Hz OLED gaming monitor with a 0.03 millisecond response time, and it actually costs less than $500. I'm also using the HyperX Origins 2 Pro keyboard with an 8000 Hz polling rate and hot swappable switches packed inside a translucent housing. Very satisfying. And of course, we can't forget about the Pulsefire 2 wireless gaming mouse. Now obviously, with such a high-end spec system, you're able to run any game you want in max settings, whether you're playing competitively or story-driven games. But what really separates the OMEN MAX 45L from all the other pre-built systems out there is the built-in overclocking features that you can access through their OMEN Gaming Hub software. So once you launch the app, you get taken to the homepage where you can see your system's vitals and then some of the OMEN gear that you have connected. Now, if you go over here on the bottom left and click on OMEN Desktop, you can actually see more of your system's vitals on the homepage, but you also have way more options when it comes to tweaking your system's performance. You can check the status of your power supply, control the lighting of your system, the LCD on your AIO, and my personal favorite, the Advanced Performance Tuning tab. So this tab is basically where everything happens. This is where you're able to overclock your system and squeeze out additional FPS. So I'm going to start in the CPU tab and click on Advanced PBO. That way we can unlock the ability to push our CPU to higher frequencies. There's going to be a slider over here on the bottom. I'm just going to drag this out to the max. So essentially we can push the CPU up to 200 megahertz more than its base clock. Then I'm going to max out the curve optimizer as well to 30. 20 is usually the safest and most stable, but if OMEN is offering 30, then it means it's most likely going to be fine. The good thing about the software is that there's a built-in benchmark so we can stress test the PC. So if the system crashes, we can come back and lower our values. But for the sake of testing, we're going to keep it on 30 for now. Then I'm going to hit apply. And over here is basically just telling me if the system crashes, we can hold the power button to restart our PC. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to run the benchmark. The fans are starting to ramp up. You can actually see the CPU clock speed in real time, which is pretty cool. Okay, the benchmark is done and the PC didn't crash, so it's safe to assume that the system is stable. We even got a higher score compared to last time, which is nice. But now let's go into the GPU tab, and I'm going to do the same exact thing here. I'm going to max out the core clock and the memory clock as much as I can. Then I'm going to hit apply. And then I'm going to open up Heaven Benchmark so we can stress test the GPU. You can actually see the upgraded overclock on the GPU now, and I'll bring up the original values side by side so you guys can see what exactly changed. Not much has changed for the CPU because Heaven Benchmark is GPU heavy, but we do see a change for the graphics card. Around 200 megahertz more on the boost clock and 400 megahertz on the memory. And as a result, we are pulling in slightly more power, around 15 watts more. Okay, so we just scored 446 on our Heaven benchmark. And if we compare it to the original benchmark before the overclock, we've actually gained around 13 FPS more just by moving a few sliders on the software. I even tested this in Cyberpunk 2077, and with the overclocks, we've actually gained 14 more FPS. And you can actually see the clock speeds have been increased for both CPU and GPU. So yeah, the overclocking performance is pretty impressive, especially when you don't have to do any hard work. Just click a few buttons and drag a few slides and you get higher frames. Now, if you don't want to overclock your PC, which is completely normal, by the way, OMEN does offer AI optimization instead. So if you scroll over here to the top and click on OMEN AI, and basically have the software optimize your game. So not only does it run better, but also brings you the maximum FPS possible given your hardware of the PC. Here's a list of all the games that are currently supported. I only have Marvel Rivals installed on the system, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, the optimization didn't yield positive results for me. I think I actually lost 2 FPS by enabling this. So yeah, just keep in mind that your results may vary. It depends on your specs, what games you play. It's not guaranteed that you will get more frames in games, but it doesn't hurt to check. So yeah, this PC definitely has extra headroom for additional performance. And with all things considered, I'm gonna give it a solid 5 out of 5 for performance. Okay, let's talk cooling. The cryo chamber is actually one of the cooler things I've seen in a pre-built system, and to my knowledge, no other company is doing it. In traditional cases, the AIO is often mounted on the top, and what happens is the heat that's produced from the GPU and the other components inside gets sucked in through the radiator and out the top. So basically the CPU is getting cooled by warmer air. But having the radiator separated into a different compartment allows the CPU to get fresh air from outside the case, thus resulting in cooler CPU temps. At least that's the goal from OMEN. During gaming, the CPU peaked at 67 degrees Celsius and the GPU peaked at 61C. I mean, the temps are low, but I wouldn't say they're shockingly low. I have seen this CPU get much cooler. In fact, the build I did back in December was clocked in at 62 degrees Celsius peak. And that was using a Li & Li AIO inside of a traditional case. I mean, sure, I was playing Arc Raiders instead of the finals, but the CPU had more load, about 40% compared to only 30% from the finals. So yeah, I mean, the temps are technically low, but I was expecting much lower temps, especially considering they have a full-on custom cooling solution for their AIO. There's also a caveat to having a separate chamber. You lose the convenient access to the cooler. There's a bit of disassembling required to remove the top cover so that you can access the radiator in case you need to clean the fans or swap it out, but it's not a huge deal. For thermals, I'm giving the OMEN MAX 45L a 4 out of 5. So here's a quick recap of all the ratings for each category. If we total everything together, the final rating for the OMEN MAX 45L desktop PC is 4.25 if we use the discounted price, and 3.75 if we use the original price. It's hard to recommend this PC to the average consumer because it's so expensive, and also there's a massive price gap between building it yourself or buying one that's already pre-built. So for the original sticker price of a little over $6,000, I just simply can't recommend this to anyone because it's really expensive. But I would also not recommend anyone to go with the 128GB memory configuration because that is completely overkill. 99% of the people out there don't even need that much memory. So to combat the high price of this PC, I do recommend selecting the 32GB option instead, which will drop the price by $1,940. And you will get faster memory as well. 6,000 megatransfers, which is the recommended speed for DDR5 systems, as opposed to only 5,200 megatransfers, which is what we have here with the 128GB kit. I would also recommend downgrading the CPU to the 9800X3D, which will save you another $330. If your only focus is gaming, streaming, and video editing, honestly, you don't need to put a Ryzen 9 in here. So with these changes, the total price comes down to $3,768. And if you were to build a similar spec PC with these updated parts, you would end up paying around $3,100, which is about $668 less than what OMEN is offering. So the price gap is way less if you were to go with these updated specs as opposed to the maxed out spec that they're offering. But either way, that is my review of the OMEN MAX 45L desktop PC. If you guys want to check it out yourself, I'll drop a link to it down below. Also, let me know in the comment section what pre-built system I should check out next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.